Here's Jordan Joe Hollabaugh.
3.1. She's in the money.
She was about as fast as she could have been on that
one. 2.9 seconds. And now she is number one.
You are officially in the loop. Welcome back to In the Loop podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Joe Hollabaugh, and I'm here today with the one and only Tim O'Connell. We were just doing our Rodeo Live Jive. We get behind the scenes this Rodeo Lab. We'll play the song for you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you have to hear the song
You have
to
to
understand
hear
the dance.
And there's a dance that goes on behind the scenes for every Rodeo Live pre-show and before the show and during the show. Talk about your little jig you've got going on here.
You know, I like to use the chair's momentum with me, because, my hips can't get rolling without a little bit of movement. I'm not playing it on the ground, so you got to use it. Use it or lose it.
Use it or lose it. And that's what that mentality has gotten you a world champion bareback riding gold buckle. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I mean,
use
use it or lose it. Tim O'Connell, official mic drop.
Yeah. Oops. Podcast over? What?
So you and I have gotten to become friends and co-workers as Rodeo Live, Cowboy Channel. I have grown up watching you ride bareback horses, which means you're older than me. Yeah. And how old are you?
I'll be 34 on Friday.
I'm older than you. I'm 34. I'm fixing to be 35 in December.
At the NFR?
At the NFR, December 10th.
Oh,
Don't forget my birthday present.
My wife's birthday is at the NFR every year too, so I have a really good cake place.
Okay. Get
Except
two.
Her birthday always fell in the eliminator round, so I wasn't normally I made it up to her after, but I was never in just the jolliest birthday celebration moods.
Well, and let's just jump right into you're saying they're never in the jolliest. So that's one thing you and I've talked a lot about, and I've tried to pick your brain, and that's why you're on the podcast today, is your mindset. You are bar none one of the elites in everything and all you do. I feel like you've taken the mindset you created in bareback riding and you've pulled it into broadcasting, hence your use it or lose it dance. But in all seriousness, talk about that mindset that you've had, that you've created. Did you come with that mindset when you started bareback riding? Have you developed it? If so, where does it come from?
I think it comes from my wrestling background. I grew up in Iowa. Iowa's really known for wrestling as pretty much their mainstay sport. The difference between Iowa wrestling and most others, it's not so much technique based. I mean, it is technique based. The elite of the elite are the same in Iowa as they are as any other state, but a majority of it is just putting your will on them and making other people break. And what it takes to do that is a mindset to go into deep waters and feel uncomfortable and being comfortable in uncomfortable situations, but you have to put yourself in that space, in that mindset over and over and for hours and hours to be able to pull it out for seconds. In, a 6-minute match in high school wrestling, you can, if you start putting your will on somebody and making them do things that they don't want to do, you can feel someone's spirit break. And then you can do whatever you want in the rest of the match and, go on to win the match. And, for me, I kind of learned that when I started making state wrestling, was you were never going to usually get through you might get your opening round out of the, finish it before the time expires. But once you got to the quarters and the semis and everything else in between, once you kind of moved into that elite top 16, you're going to have to battle somebody that's also used to imposing their will on you. And those matches are won in a split second, position, move, and it's all done from just all that repetition over and over and over again. And again, waiting, being patient and accepting that this is going to suck and embrace the suck until the opportunity comes to fruition.
Well, and as you're saying, put yourself in uncomfortable positions over and over and over again. That's something that I feel like I'm not a bareback rider. But if I were a bareback rider, it seems to be an uncomfortable position over and over and over. And it's a battle and it's a fight and it's a dog fight. And the one cool thing I've seen for you is you're like maybe 3 different Tims. You're like Rodeo Live Tim, broadcasting Tim, but then you're go to battle Tim. Talk about getting into that state of mind and who is that Tim? Like the people that we don't see you behind the chutes. Like you told Steve Kenyon, the vein that runs down your side, like, please don't talk. Jess Pope said, don't talk to him when that happens. Talk about that state of mind and how you get in that before you prepare to get on a bareback horse.
Yeah, it's like kind of just like an alter ego, truthfully. Like, I've learned to flip that fight or flight syndrome. And then that's a real thing. People don't want to believe it, but like, it's really just like training your body to go to a place of kill or be killed. Like, this is a very dangerous sport. I mean, we watched, it was always dangerous to me. I always watched it and I always thought it was dangerous, but I really just thought the danger for me was you're going to end up on a surgery table at some point in your career. Like when I do schools, I tell these kids that, there's a few things that I can guarantee you. And that's when I start that whole conversation off with these kids first out of the gate. One, if you do this at any capacity, there's a 100% chance you're going to get hurt. If you do it long enough, there's this very small percent chance every time you nod your head, you can die or be paralyzed. But there's also the other side of the coin. Like, there's a 100% chance that you're going to have the most fun that you'll ever have in your life. There's nothing that can compare to riding a bucking horse, in my opinion, for me. So, when Trenton Montero got killed, like, that really sparked something like, this, you can die doing this. And we've watched legends in this sport die doing this in other sports. But, in the bareback riding, I see us as like the modern day gladiators, and you feel like a gladiator in that. And you never think that, obviously in gladiator movies, they do die, but you feel invincible to an extent. Like, I remember telling my wife that, Trenton was going in for like his 14th or 15th surgery and I was like, he's going to be fine. Like, he might have complications the rest of his life, but he's going to be fine. And I'll never forget when she came out and told me that he passed away. And that changed something in me. Like, that really brought the death factor to life more than what you totally understand. You always know it's a thing, but backing up to the mindset, I would always, it's kill or be killed. Mm-hmm. That was always my mind going into a bucking horse, like, so I used that mentality and I figured out a way to process it in a time manner in my warm up. When we get there, we normally get there an hour and a half before the rodeo starts, first event. So we get out, we get our stuff unpacked and check your rigging, check your equipment, blah, 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 but like, you'll be talking to the guys, seeing where everyone's gone, seeing what they're doing. You're in pretty good conversation. About that hour before is when I start my warm up. I usually go to myself and I start the process of my warm up. And that's like the first stage of it starting to trip. Like, hey, like, we're getting ready for battle now. Like, let's get warmed up. Let's get things going. When the warm up gets done, like, I'm usually in a pretty good sweat from it. I mean, it's a workout for most people, what my warm up is. And that's starting to trigger some things for me. Like, hey, like, we're getting closer and closer. Yeah. When the tape comes out and we start taping up, it's usually when I'm done talking to people for the most part. Like, now I'm starting to visualize more and more what's about to happen. And, tape time's done. They're starting to play hot songs, and, rodeo's turned into more of like a rock and roll theme show. So like, these hot songs are already kind of getting your emotions rolling. You're getting a little bit more adrenaline starting to come through your veins. And when they load bucking horses, some of the last things that I do super calmly is, like, I'll put my rigging on my horse and I always pray on my horse. I put a hand on my horse and I finish and I pray for protection over them, pray for protection over me. And, just a certain way I feel whatever comes out. But those are the two main things I always pray about. And I draw a cross on them, usually on their shoulder. And then after that, like, I can feel my eyes like switching. Like, I can feel like this irrational version of me is starting to come out. Mm-hmm. And I love it when that guy comes out. Like, that's not someone that I want to be all the time, but it's who I want to be in that moment. That's a guy that will win at any cost. That it's a guy it's kill or be killed. And I'm not going to be the one that's killed in this fight.
Yeah.
And when I flip to that state of mind, that guy's a winner. That guy will do anything at all costs to win, and he's going to win unapologetically. And, you know, I say, like, it's tough to say because what you see on TV is what you're seeing, but, like, you see that in most guys at some point. Usually, if you look in the buck and shoot and watch a bareback rider, if you look into the eyes of a bareback rider, you're going to see the most humanistic, you know, warrior. You know, you can look into their soul and see who they really are.
Yeah.
And, you know, for me, like, it comes out sooner and it stays a little bit longer than most. Like, it's about a 30-minute process. When that stage, that irrational version of me comes out, I let the emotions run because I want to take all that in too. There's only so many times you get to do this in your life, and I want to feel those emotions. I want to feel the fight. I want to feel the victory, and I want to feel the loss because you can learn from every stage of that point if you are able to take it and digest it. The other flip of the coin of that is and it took me a very long time to know when to turn it off because it's not a very pleasant person to be around either, especially when things would go wrong. I would mentally beat myself up if things went wrong because of how much I've practiced. I've practiced every counter move. I've visualized the rides before they happened. I knew the horses. I've studied the horses, like put so much time and effort that I knew I was never mad. And this is where I think things got misconstrued a little bit. I was never mad when somebody beat me. But I was very mad at myself for leaving points on the table. But when you go in the locker room and you just look like a little pouty kid, it's not a good look either. And that didn't lead to making very many friends in this game either. But the guys I travel with, you know, like they understand that I'm not that guy all the time. Like I want the best for them. They want the best for me. Like we're a unit. Everybody else, like, you know, people say all the time, like, we're going to go play with the wolves. Well, we are the wolves.
Yeah.
Like my rig doesn't go out there to play with any wolves. We're the ones that you're playing against. And like, that's the mentality of everybody that gets in that rig.
Well, and I think as I'm sitting here watching you, like you took us to that state of mind. That's something that only elite athletes do. And to be able to create that state of mind is something I've worked for. And as you're talking, like, I don't want to leave points on the table. I resonate with that because I too, my husband asks me a lot, like, why are you mad? And I'm like, I have high expectations for myself. And I feel like that can be a double-edged sword, right? Because you can kind of get in your own way too sometimes. You talked about visualization, which I want to ask you about. I know that that's something that's key to your game. Tell me a little bit more about your visualization and then also touch on embracing the losses. Because I think that's something we don't talk about enough.
Yeah, so like when I visualize something, I want to visualize it from every angle. I'll start with, you know, I'll get my draw, figure out what the draw is. I immediately go find video, usually 3 videos. I never watch the rider on their back. And someone asked me that, why don't you ever watch the rider? And I say, because they're not me. They can't do the things that I can do. In my mind, that sounds a little arrogant, I know, but they can't do the things that I can do on the back of bucking horses. I know how to make horses better. I know how to ride the changes and the funkiness that they'll have and present. So I'll watch it. I'll watch, 3 different videos, try to find videos that are very similar to the arena that they're going to be bucking in, because horses buck different in a crossfire. They buck different in an indoor. They buck different in an outdoor. I want to see what they do in that arena type. And so once I have a pretty good idea of what the trip's going to be, then I start the visualization of it. I want to see a perfect ride made from the left side. I want to see a perfect ride made from the left and right side. I want to see in my mind what the judges are going to see and how I can capitalize on both sides. And then I want to see the ride perfectly from my point of view and what that's going to feel like and what that's going to look like and what the change is going to be and how you capitalize on the change and how you finish it in the best way possible.
What about the controllables and the uncontrollables? I mean, I know you and I talking at the American, we were going through the horse list of who had what horse and their style, the horse's style and the rider's style. And you were telling me, hey, if they do this, they can dress this horse up there. They can do that. They can do it. Just like you said, every move to make. But there's a lot of those things that you can't control. So how do you go about that part of it?
That took a very long time to understand in what I can control and what I can't control. And I actually had to talk to a sports psychologist. When I lost the world in 2020, like, I was very distraught about that for a long time. to lead the world for 263 days and to lose in the final day in that manner of how that whole situation happened, that really bothered me. Now, granted, saying that, it was Casey Fields, it was his fifth, it was a re-ride. I can't control anything that happened. I can't control how he rode. And he stepped up he got a re-ride. I would have taken the re-ride in that situation. I'd have loved the horse that he got on, and I would have probably won the world too if that situation presented to myself. So, that moment for me, like, I was in the bucking chute, and this is just the best way I can describe controlling and uncontrolling. Like, I had 2-buck Chuck in the 10th round. I had watched Casey get on him around 5. I knew that horse did not like getting spurred very hard because he would quit. So I was in the buck and shoot, and I was listening. So I listened to what Casey's score came out, and it was like an 82-83. And I was like, easy money. Like, I'm going to pick him up. I'm going to let him down. I'm going to be real gentle with him. We're going to be about 86, and I'm going to walk off
another
with
gold buckle.
Yeah, I'm going to win a 4th gold buckle. I heard something when Tom Newens came to the buck and shoot. I started hearing he's got a re-ride. We're going to do it in the bronc riding. We're not going to do it right now. And I didn't know what the re-ride was, so I had to put him back immediately to the 88-90 range is what he can be on any horse at any given time. Can be a lot more than that too, depending what the re-ride was. Changed the whole outlook of what I was going to do in a split second on the back of that horse. So I picked him up and let him down for 4 seconds and then really flashed him on the last 4, and he quit right at the 8-second mark. I was 89.5. Wow. Was sitting second in the round to Jess, and I had to sit there and watch. And it played out like it played out. And he won the gold buckle, and it's his gold buckle. It was never mine. It wasn't supposed to be. It wasn't God's plan for me to win that gold buckle. But it was really hard for me to process all of that, like to have these expectations and have things going my way and have an uncontrollable situation. I felt like it was stolen from me in a sense, and there was nothing stolen from me, but like, that's how I felt. Like, people,
those are the emotions.
Yeah, those are the emotions. And the one thing about rodeo is they don't teach you how to process emotion at all. There is no mental training other than win. And they don't know. Like, for an athlete like that, I felt like I was experiencing grief, like a loss. Like, I felt empty. I felt a shell of myself. I felt like I was cheated. And all these emotions that go into that. And, the fantastic Facebook world was not helping either. Like,
Keyboard cowboys weren't helping you.
Yeah, no, like, just like the whole thing, everything they put on about, Casey winning, like, there'd be 500 comments about how that was cheated, this and that. And he didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
Like, and I feel like if the role was reversed, now moving on from this, he'd have felt cheated if it went my way like that. But like, those are the uncontrollables. And I ended up going to Paige Champion, who is Richie Champion's wife. She is a sports psychologist. And we talked for a year, and she started helping me process emotion like that. And she also helped me dial in that intensity and how to dial it in and dial it back, and how to take things from that and not waste the rest of my time in the day worrying about something that I couldn't help. I couldn't control if this horse slipped or stumbled because he wasn't supposed to off the film. That's something that I can't do. I can't control what them judges put on that sheet. I can only control what my 2 legs and my body do on the back of that animal in a split second. And when I started learning that, I started processing the losses, if you want to say, a little bit better. Like, I would look at it, watch it a couple times off a replay of a ride, and you should have done this. But like, you're talking about millisecond decisions. Your brain can't process feeling that fast.
Right.
But seeing the mistake, know the mistake, go back. If you want to go fix it on the spur board, if it is a problem, do it. Bucking machine, do it. If it's not really a problem, it was just a split second missed timing, chalk it up as you were still 85, 86. You still got to check. Let's move on to the next one. So processing all that helped, help the losses, I guess, after that, if you want to call it a loss. But like, it really turned those losses into small wins. Because now I'm learning more. Like, you can never stop learning in this game, but I wasn't learning off of missed opportunities. I was beating myself up in those missed opportunities instead of like pointing it out and like, hey, I got to be better in this little bit area. Just be sharper next time.
Well, and like flipping that perspective of and creating a new perspective. You know, I hate the word loss. Like you said, they're small wins. And when you can create that emotion of you're winning even through a loss, then you can create momentum. And momentum is what takes you to the pay window.
Yeah.
Talk about you've won 3 gold buckles. How long have you rodeoed?
I got on my first bareback horse in 2010.
For a while.
Yeah. So
15 years.
15 years, which is
pretty
crazy.
Incredible career for a bareback rider.
Yes. I mean, you know, it's crazy to think that I even turned out to be a bareback rider, to be honest with you. You know, I grew up, like I'd say I've been a part of rodeo all my life. I grew up, my dad was a pickup man. My brother was a pickup man, bullfighter, rode bulls for a little bit, made the Ram National Circuit Finals. Now he owns Championship Pro Rodeo. I never really seen myself as on the athlete. I was always drawn to the athlete side. And like most young kids, you're drawn to the bull riding. And I realized in high school rodeo, and, you know, I was good. Like, I had won our state and qualified to nationals all 4 years. But as I got into like college, I realized I was more of a bull getter honor than a bull rider. And, you know, like my riding percentage was never going to be.
You got the picture in the chute is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes they had to like, hey, you need to move so we can shut this gate. You know, like I had a no quit attitude, but like I just wasn't that good at it.
Yeah.
When you go back and look and seeing like how you make a career out of something like this, and it just was God's perfect plan. I was at the Three Hills Buckout one year, and I was going there to, you know, they had a deal for a long time. They would pick the top 5 in each rough stock, buy their permits for them, pay their entry fees at all their rodeos all summer. So I was going there to get my bull riding permit bought and qualify through that. And on the second day, Tanner Oss handed me a rigging, and he said, "You want to get on a bareback horse?" And, you know, it was exciting. I got throttled, but it was something that I decided to keep going. They said, "We'll buy your permit in both." And I went to the high school national finals and got in a really bad wreck the first night in the bull riding. Got on my bareback horses. And when I went to go get on my second bull, like it just really put like the fear of God in me, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. And the bareback riding was starting to be a lot of fun. I was covering all these horses. I wasn't riding them great at that point, but I got a scholarship. You know, I had 21 offers to go wrestle. I had one D1 offer asked me to come wrestle for them, and I had one JUCO offer to go rodeo, and I took that JUCO offer. And from that point, I was with a coach that was a bareback riding coach, and we worked every day. I started watching film every day on the best guys in the world, which, you know, happened to be Casey Field.
Yeah.
And, you know, in his most dominant run of those 4 years when he was elite, it was like when he was in his prime, in like especially 2011, when he won 6 rounds, he looked like a world champion against high school rodeo kids at the NFR. That's how the gap that he made on everybody. So watching him breaking his style down, what he did on bucking horses, and how to start emulating my style with take aparts from his, you know, like things just started running for me after that. And I turned into a bareback rider.
And here we are 15 years later as a bareback rider. At the beginning of this year during the American, you were battling injuries. And I wasn't aware of them. Nobody else was either, because you're like, I'm not telling anybody about it. Earlier, you were talking to Steve Kenyon, and you said, I rode one whole year, and you have to quote me on the year. I rode one whole year with a torn groin all year long and ended up 9th. And not to sound arrogant, because I feel like there's a bit of arrogance everybody has to have to be an elite athlete at any point. You've got to have that alter ego. But you said, I ended up in the top 9 in the world with one leg. Think what I could do with 2 good ones. Talk a little bit about your struggles that you've had, you know, with your injuries, and what you're, you know, how you're planning to stay involved in the sport that you love.
Yeah, so injuries have there's a double-edged sword. Like I love to rodeo. Like I don't pick and choose. We enter and we go. And because I believe I can win on anything that you run underneath me. So like I like to rodeo. I like going out. I love seeing this country. I love seeing Canada, and I love getting on bucking horses. So I didn't turn as much stuff out in my career as probably other people do, unless they were just no-win filler horses.
Mm-hmm.
And and when I won the world in 2018, that was my first big wreck. I won the world, and a split second later, I got jerked down on all pink of J-Bar J's, exploded my riding shoulder.
Mm.
I had surgery in January, and I came back at 20 weeks into Reno. And from that point, I went from unranked in the world at entering Reno to having the finals pretty much made at the beginning of September, going into the NFR 6th.
Wow.
And then moving through that NFR, it was one of my best NFRs. Ended up third in the world. I broke the average record for about 15 minutes until Clayton Bigelow decided to nod his head and just shatter that. And so I won second the average, and then that kind of ran into 2020. That momentum just kept running for me. Like I was back, like I can do, in my mind, I can do things that other people can't. I'm willing to work harder than everyone else through these injuries, and I'm one of the most elite bareback riders. And in my mind at that point, I was the best.
Mm-hmm.
Just Biggs had a fantastic year. Just killed us. He killed us that year in 19. And, that ran into the 2020 story. Was in a world title race, finished second, and come back in 21. I go to 21. I'm winning the year again. We get to August, and I have a horse snap my tailbone off. And I have to have my tailbone cut out 100 days before the national finals. So I go to the national finals. I have a new end of my spine, and it's pretty raw yet.
Yeah.
So wasn't a great NFR for me. And then year old at 22, I come back. Same week, year later, I'm also winning the year again at that point. And something weird happens in Kennewick, Washington. My chaps catch my thumb and tear my UCL tendon completely out of my thumb. Have to have surgery 2 days later. Again, first horse backs, first round of the national finals. Don't have the best finals again. First horse of 23. Very first horse, Denver, Colorado. This horse is a little tricky in the box to get out clean on. I do get out clean on. We go out, we're angling to the left. She's doing exactly what she normally does, angling across there. She's about to start getting showy at the 4 or 5 second mark. And I go to set a spur to get her to lift.
Mm-hmm.
And she slips. And she turns right doing this. And I have kind of a deeper hold than what I would normally get at that point. And when she turns right, it tears my left adductor.
Good gosh.
So I get on my horse that night. I get on the horse in the semifinals. I don't make it through, and I'm sore, and I can't figure out. I'm just thinking it's soreness from not being on in a month, and it keeps going. We get to the American. They do an image of it, and it's a big partial tear of this adductor that you can see on an X-ray. You shouldn't be able to see you shouldn't see a tendon on an X-ray tour. So they injected it with cortisone. That didn't really do anything. So I go to Tijuana and go down and I get stem cells, and that kind of relieves the pain. Well, coming through that, I rode through the summer, went through the fall, had a pretty good, I had to be a little pickier and choosier of what I got on, and I couldn't get on as many in the week. So I'd usually go to get on 3 or 4. I'd have to spend 2 or 3 days kind of rehabbing the groin back and then go back out. I ended up I think I went into the finals 4th. And then I went back to Tijuana, had stem cells again right before my prep for the NFR. Feeling good. Didn't get on as many practice horses prior to the NFR just to keep that groin in check. In first horse of the finals, it was a weird feeling horse. She looks a lot funner than what she actually rides, which might have just been me too, but it was Bronc Riding Nations of Sankey, and she went to the left and I pulled, and she had me really funky out of shape, and I had to kind of bear down to make the whistle. And I had to basically just clinch on that groin, aggravate that groin, round 1. And fast forward, we get to round 9. I have a horse come out, and it was a horse that I really pushed for to go to the final, so I was super happy to have him. And he had this day too, and he hit and bogged right out of there and turned right, and I just turned it loose, and I turned everything loose and went after the go around, and it popped the rest of that groin off. So the big partial turns into a full tear. Can't really walk moving into round 10. Can't get it to settle down. Having a hard time moving. And I have a really hard horse to ride that night. And I'd been 90 on that horse 3 different times. Have never made the pickup man on him. It's top notch of pickets. And I called up some people and got some Banamine, drank some Banamine, and didn't feel nothing. But like watching that back, hindsight's 2020. Like by about the 4 or 5 second, my left leg kind of stops working. And I went to a rodeo about a week later to the Chase Hawks, and it's really not working. So I have to have surgery. I have the surgery on the adductor, and I was really surprised on how fast they were going to release me. He wanted me back in competition at 9 weeks in Houston. And I was like, if you're going to push, if you'll let me push, I'll push. So I did. And I got on a spur board or a bucking machine. And it was the 2 days before I was going to Houston. Rode it on low, and it was fine. And then we put it on the normal speed, and I marked it out, and I felt this pop. And something shivered down my leg. And then the next day, I couldn't even sit on a spur board. I turn out of Houston, give it 2 or 3 weeks. And, I'm at that point, I'm at like 13, 14 weeks. Like everyone's like, oh, it could just be scar tissue, blah, blah, blah. Well, I get on our first practice horse back. I got Jess Pope in the arena picking up. And this horse is what we put beginner kids on. And he's got a big rear out. He's huge, and he just kind of hops to the left. Well, about the 4th second, I can see my left leg just stop working. And I double grab, and I can't get a hold with that left foot. Jess picks me up, and I'm holding him. This is the funny part of the story, too. And he just, like, my hat was off, so he kisses me on the forehead. And he goes, welcome back, little buddy. And I was like, thanks,
Get away
Jess.
from me.
And like, he goes, are you going to let me go? And I was like, to be honest, I'm zinging. I don't know if I'm going to be able to stand when you drop me. So he hold me down, and it kind of goes away. I'm like, well, maybe that was just the rest of the scar tissue popping free. And go to bed that night, and I can starting to bruise, and there is a hole the size of a golf ball in my leg that was not there. Go get some x-rays, and it's definitely surgery failed. And I went to 2 other specialists. I went to the specialist for the blues, and then he looked at me. He's like, there's no way I can fix this. This is bad. Sends me to the Viking specialist. He says the same thing. They ended up referring me back to my doctor in Philly. He does the surgery, gets it all pulled back up. I take the rest of 23 off. At that point, we were in June.
Right.
Like, there's no point to come back at this. I give it a 6-month recovery. And I came back in 24. I went to Denver and was rusty, to say the least. My timing was way off. By the time I was really cleared to ride, there was nowhere to ride.
Right.
Like, it was cold. People there, it just wasn't a good situation. So my first horses were right in competition. And I was rusty, like I think anybody would be coming off a year layoff. And I'm starting to like experience some pain in my inside my hips, like deep inside my hips. And we're looking at things, and x-rays and CT scans and more imaging, and like everything is holding, but something's off.
Yeah.
I got an exemption to Houston, and in the second round I had this horse throw me off, and like I was like, man, that horse should not have thrown me off. Back to like the whole learning in the small wins deal. And I wasn't mad about it, but I kept telling my wife that night, I was like, this shouldn't have happened. She goes, you can get bucked off, just know. I was like, no, I know I can get bucked off. It doesn't happen very often, which is surprising, but the way he threw me off shouldn't have happened. Like, I should have been able to hold at least for another jump, and then maybe he would have yanked me down the second jump if I wouldn't have corrected. But the way he got me was odd to me. Again, go to bed that night, I see a bulge on the right side, and go to sports medicine the next day, and they confirmed that I had a sports hernia. The left side was overcompensating for the right side got weak. I pulled all my internal core off my pelvic floor. I have surgery again in March. Come back in June. late June, and things are not right. I'm double grabbing a lot at this point. My left leg's not working. I got extreme pain. Like, stuff's just not working. And then I find some other doctors, and we're doing some voodoo stuff basically at that point. And it would work one day, and then the next day it wouldn't. And at Cheyenne, that was like the final straw for me. This horse put me in a very bad situation because my left side just quit on the second jump, and I double grab again. And like, to explain people the pain, I would explain it like this. When I got off, I felt like I had never been on a horse before, and we went and worked cows for a full day.
Oof.
Like when you try to like get your hips up underneath you, but you can't, and you don't know if you should. That's how I felt, but I also felt like someone stabbed me deep inside.
Wow.
And so I took a 30-day, and we're going through all the possible scenarios. We've gone through all the stuff, and the brink of it, we figure out this. I've been cut on 4 times in 3 years inside my hips. I have scar tissue wrapped around a nerve, the perennial nerve on my left side, which also goes right to your pelvic floor.
Mm-hmm.
Your pelvic floor is the main point of contact in bareback riding. So you're constantly beating up your pelvic floor. And with my adductors not working because they'd been shut off from all these surgeries, my adductors were overworking, hitting this nerve, spiking me in my pelvic floor, which is now weak from all these surgeries. I find this girl in Phoenix who is a pelvic floor specialist, and we've been working with each other at this point for 6 weeks. She's got me in some of the best shape I've ever been in. She's working with me through techniques of breathing and everything. So now I'm starting to figure out, like, everything's turning back on finally.
Good.
The daily pain is going away. That sharpness and stuff like that is really starting to go away. So now I'm looking for a real comeback in 2026.
There we go.
And I think to the moral of all that, and kind of retracking that, why I told that story and talking about the mindset, I couldn't find that guy before I got on. I had never questioned what I could do on the back of a bucking horse, ever. But I couldn't be 100% certain that I could do my job. Every time I climbed in the box, I didn't know if it was going to hurt until I got on my rigging. And then you have to nod your head.
Yeah.
So now I'm riding these horses, and like, I don't know from what jump to jump if it's going to keep working or not. And it put me in and for me, it took my confidence away in my ability to ride, let alone my ability to win. So if you're not confident against these killers out here right now, you're just an entry fee that they're going to gather up from you. So I cut my season again after Cheyenne. I really feel confident that we have these kinks worked out. I'm finally getting on a spur board with no pain again.
Awesome.
Yeah. And, for a long time, I just lied to everybody.
Yeah. I
feel like you can trick your mind into telling you, like, my wife, like, did that hurt? And I knew it hurt. I'm like, no, I'm good. That was really good. Like, if I can tell myself I don't hurt, I can get through the little stuff. But like, now I actually am not lying to anybody. Like, I'm starting to feel good. And like, that just goes back to like, trick your mind, trick the brain, and do the things that you have to do.
Well, and to hear, when you see somebody that's won 3 world titles and you hear them say, I lost my confidence. I lost my confidence in the ability that I had to win. To me, I'm like, you what? I think that we put people on a pedestal and it dehumanizes them in the fact that, like, the way you got to that confidence, you've told that story this whole podcast, right? But it's easy to lose. And then for you to pick it back up and come back and be honest, transparent, flip that perspective, say, hey, I'm coming back in 2026 and I'm doing it this way. I just think I've got to applaud you there.
Well, I appreciate that. And that took a lot of, like, again, the sports psychologist, learning how to deal with emotion, learning to be honest with yourself in real situations, not lying to yourself in the situations just to try to get through the situation. Like, you're going to ride hurt for a majority of your career doing this, but you can't ride injured.
Right.
And you can't ride that great injured anyway. So, I've had a lot of little things. I mean, like I said, I've beat myself up to play this game, to be at a high level, and I could work through all that other stuff. But like, this was an accumulation of multiple surgeries that, I mean, it's taken some science doctors to figure out what has actually happened. And I think I lost the confidence too when your main surgeon is very confused by your case.
Mm-hmm.
And when they don't know what's wrong with you and they're seeking outside sources and you don't have immediate answers, it's tough.
Yeah.
And it's not like you want to go back on the table and like physically my body's healed, but it's like, you know, for a long time, I was in my own head, I was like, that's like saying, oh, the surgery was a success, but the patient's dead, you know?
Yeah.
You know, like I thought that like for a long time until I found this girl through Tandy Freeman, meeting him at a PBR event and meeting one of his specialists and him kind of working with me for about 20 minutes and calming some stuff down that was already irritated and like got his mind thinking of it. And then he went on a search for a male. It is very difficult to find a pelvic floor specialist that will work with you. It is also very difficult to find a pelvic floor specialist that will work with a male athlete because there's just, he goes, you're trying to find a very specific person in this world. And he spent a week and he found this girl.
Awesome.
So now, you know, like I said, I've been working with her, and within a couple of weeks, she's got just the little nagging stuff that got me every day to vanish.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm
exciting.
excited for 2026.
That's exciting. Well, and we'll be following your story 2026 for sure. Flipping the switch just a little bit. You've dove head on into broadcasting, analyst, media personality, got the little jig with Rodeo Live. One of my also fun facts, and your wife will love this. I called you one day to talk about Rodeo Live logistics in this podcast, and you were, what were you doing?
You know, I think I was doing some real manly stuff, like
cleaning toilets.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Which is much appreciated. I just say that to say, like, there you go from world champion to sometimes man's got to do it, a man's got to do and clean the toilets.
I mean, we got 2 young kids. Them toilets get dirty. I mean, like, we got a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. But that kind of goes back to the relationship. Like this, you know, not only did it take a very specific person to help me through this injury, it takes a very specific spouse to understand this game and love you through it all. You know, like I've said for years, like when you marry a rodeo cowboy, you're a single wife, or single spouse, or you're a single mother. And because of how much we're gone throughout the year. And, you know, for me, I always thought like, you know, that is my job. It is my job to leave and go ride on a bucking horse, but I'm always on the last flight out and I'm the first flight back. And it doesn't matter if I'm tired, I need to be able to flip the switch to husband and father as soon as I get home. Yeah. The other fact of it is, yeah, do I train when I'm home? Yes, I do. But at the end of it, as soon as I get done training, like I'm going to clean the house. I'm going to do the laundry. I'm going to do the little knick-knack chores and take that stress off of her because she's doing everything that I should be doing for 4 or 5 days throughout the week. Like, I'm not going to go hang out with friends when I get home. Like, I'm going to be with my wife, I'm going to be with my kids, and we're going to do things as a family. And I'm going to clean the house, scrub the toilets, do whatever I have to do to take that time off of her. And anything, just if she wants to go take a nap or get her nails done, do it. I'll do this other stuff that nobody really wants to do anyway. Yeah. So when the kids come home from school, that we can just be together as a family. We're not doing things that's not time oriented for us.
Well, and those relationships are special, and I think that we don't showcase them enough. And I know that a lot of that stuff for us is private, right? But at the same token, it's just ironic that, you know, we see this immaculate, you know, you're in for the battle, resilient Tim O'Connell, but then we also see you, I picture you in an apron, you know, with a little...
I have an apron.
Do you? Does it have your name on it?
I grill a lot. I love grilling.
I meant like a cleaning apron.
Are you talking about like the feather...
Like maybe some pearls, cleaning with your apron.
Hey, Halloween is coming up.
You're headed to Vegas this year, not to get on a bucking horse. Sadly, we're waiting for 2026. But you're also going to be an NFR analyst. You're coming with Rodeo Live. How are you preparing differently for Vegas, or do you prepare differently? Like, what's it look like this year for you guys?
You know, a lot's changed. You know, I always believe like hindsight's always 20/20, and when you look at it from the outside's perspective of what I want to do, obviously what I wanted to do was go to the national finals for the last 2 years and get on, you know, those 20 bucking horses and be in a world title race. That wasn't God's plan for me.
Right.
But what happened last year, getting the opportunity to be the color commentator for the bareback riding, that was a dream of mine that I didn't even know I had. You know, I always said it like in my career in the game, like it'd be cool to, when I'm done, to do that. And that's really all. I kind of left it there. It'd be super cool to do. And I got that opportunity. The Cowboy Channel called and asked if I wanted to be the analyst with Jeff and Butch, and I mean, I jumped all over it. I mean, it was a way to still, like, man, I'm not missing my first finals in 11 years. Like, I'm going to get to be a part of it. And I got to do it, and it gave me the adrenaline rush like I was getting on the back of a bucking horse. And I was, on the first night I was up in the booth with Jeff and Butch, and then they put me down on the back of the buck and chutes. And I was with the guys. I felt the emotions. I can't help but let that stuff kind of run through me. And it comes a little hot on the mic sometimes too, because it's hard to control your emotions when you're super excited for what's going on in front of you. And fast forward to this year, on and off, like I'm coming back and then I'm not. And then, things are just wishy-washy. And I kept getting opportunities through the Cowboy Channel to do rodeo lives, to do the American with you the first time. And, fast forward to now, in September, I got the opportunity to be part of Rodeo Live for Sioux Falls, Puyallup, Pendleton, and really get to be a part of, rodeo game day.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, and then also get to go call the sport that I love, it's really shown me that I think the hardest thing for rodeo athletes is why you see most rodeo athletes fail in life after rodeo is because they don't know how to disengage from it. They don't know how to let it go. There's the famous saying, you'll never forget rodeo, but rodeo will forget you. That is as true as the day is
100%.
long. And you can't let that life go. And you don't move on with life quick enough before your assets drain. And you see guys that have done amazing things inside the sport not do amazing things outside of the sport after, because they don't know how to let it go. And I've always been, like I said, I've been involved with rodeo my entire life. I don't know. I've thought about that as I am going to be 34 on Friday. I understand that my time in rodeo is less than what I've given it as a bareback rider. But those opportunities the Cowboy Channel has given me is showing me that there's a life inside of rodeo when I hang my spurs up for the last time. And I can hang that up on my terms, and I can have an opportunity to still be involved in the sport that I've created my life out of.
Yeah.
And it's a cool feeling to know that there's a chance to stay involved in rodeo after too.
Well, and the things I love from that is on your terms. 2026 comeback story. We're ready for it. Going to be following it. What's one thing you would look back and tell younger Tim O'Connell? What's one piece of advice you would give him today?
I would tell him to enjoy it all. Because I spent a lot of time, this is going to sound so weird, but I didn't like the guy that I looked at in the mirror when I was winning world titles. Like, I didn't like the feelings that I had toward in those 16 was fantastic. Like, I went to the finals for the fourth time. I won my first world title. I'd only been riding bucking horses for 6 years at that point. And there was a part of me that created this edge, and I don't even know if anyone said it, but I made it known to me that someone said that you only won that world title because the ERA was happening. So, because at 26 you hit the pinnacle of the sport. It's really hard to move forward at that point. What do you go? There's no more going to the top. You're at the top.
You're the top.
You're the top.
You are the top.
So how do you reset the mind? And I was calling the people that I called my coach, the guy that taught me how to ride bareback horses too, and one of them said it. And he goes, you might as well be the best that's ever been. Go win 6. Well, the only guy that could stop me at that point in my mind was Casey. So I created a rival in Casey, whether we knew it or not. I created this chip and the whole ERA. I'm pretty sure I just made this up in my mind. Kind of like what you can watch Michael Jordan do. And 17 came, they had their qualifications stripped from them. So he had to work his way back in, and he either did or didn't make the final. I don't think he did. He didn't make the finals in 17. And You know, like I won the world in round 9. First time it's ever been locked up in round 9. I had a $113,000 lead. I didn't even have to get on in round 10. And huge exclamation mark. At that point, set the earnings record. And I made this story up in my head again that people were saying the only reason you won is because Casey wasn't there. We moved to 18 and like, I'm just creating this monster of a storyline in my head to just keep that edge, keep that momentum. And 18 was hard for me. We're having our first son. I'm not riding good because I'm nervous I'm going to miss the birth of my first child. And, you know, we get to the point we have Hazen. Sammy has Hazen. I was there. I didn't have him. But
I was going to say we were pregnant. We had the baby.
Yeah,
okay,
we
cool.
had the baby. And it took me to like the Ram finals a month later to like, hey,
calm down.
Yeah, like they came with me like, hey, life's good. Go do the thing. And it was like 60,000 behind the leader at that point. Huge deficit. And I come back and I end up being the season leader moving in. And the finals was a very great mirror image of my season. It was a tough finals. I wasn't cashing, but I was placing. Or I wasn't placing, but I was like right there. I was like that 7th, 8th hole.
Right.
But I'm like 85, 86. Like it's a tough finals. Very, very great group of guys that were at that finals. And finally, like we get to round 9 and like my back's against the wall and I know I have to do something. And I just took a chance and it aced it. Won the round. And that was like my second check. I won 2 rounds out there and I placed one other time, but I won the average.
Wow.
And I win it. And I remember like when the real rivalry started with me and Casey is like, at that point, like we didn't like each other. I don't think he liked me. I didn't like him, but we did respect each other. And I don't know what really popped it off in the locker room, but like we're cornered together after round 10. And I said something around the lines of, you guys got nothing. And I was like, and make no mistake, I'm only one behind you now. And that rivalry really got turned up to 11 after that.
Yeah.
But like looking back on that, how arrogant. Like I said, I didn't like the person I was looking back at in the mirror. Like I didn't like who that person turned into on like a daily rodeo thing. And those weren't very fun years for me. You would think like you just won the world 3 times in a row, like you should be on top of the world. And all I could think about was like, let's go to the next one. I wasn't even enjoying the process of winning a world title. I just wanted the next one. So I guess at that point I would tell my younger self, you need to enjoy it all and leave your emotions in the arena. Feel everything that you want to feel, but when you step out of that gate, turn it off and go back to being a human.
Well, here's to 2026, leaving your emotions in the arena. Turn it off. Be a human. You're a man of God, family man, rodeo live jigger.
Rodeo live jigger.
And hopefully go after another gold buckle. So thanks for coming on In the Loop podcast.
Thanks for having me.
You are officially in the loop.